A disclaimer to start off the video. This is going to be a longer video, so make sure you guys grab your snacks, popcorn. Make sure you guys stay tuned in. This is going to be a breakdown. This is going to be a detailed video. So if you need to pause, skip forward, whatever you need to do, go ahead and do it, and we'll get this video started. Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Tyrone back with Tech Life, and here I have a great article for you guys from Mike over at Light Reading. I'll leave a link to it in the description so you guys can check it out. So we already went over this article in the previous video. Now I want to do a detailed breakdown as to what could potentially transpire here and what could take place. So the title of the video says it all. Will T-Mobile buy US Cellular? Maybe, says CEO, and that's the CEO, Mike Sievert. So before I say anything else, I want to throw this out there immediately. And I am very confident in this statement that I'm about to make. If this deal is attractive to T-Mobile, they will buy. I am very confident in this. You know, disregard all the comments of Mike Sievert saying, you know, I like plan A, you know, that's all yada yada yada. Like, you know, in the new Metro by T-Mobile commercial. That's all yada yada yada. If the deal is attractive, T-Mobile will buy. You write that down, whatever you need to do, they will do it. It makes too much sense. If T-Mobile continues this on an organic basis, which they have done for a very long time now, it's just going to take too long. Right? This is a bunch of corporate spill at these conferences. T-Mobile is not going to give you the realistic take on how long this is really going to take to scale into these rural environments. Here on this video, I'm going to give you the realistic take. Right? Today is September 9th, 2023. It could take T-Mobile well into 2027, 2028 if they had to scale organically. And I'm taking everything into consideration when I give that estimate. I'm looking at permits. I'm looking at contractors. I'm looking at fiber, if fiber can even be deployed to that area. I'm looking at all those time frames on just getting approval. And on some of those site structures, if T-Mobile has to build an exclusive site, it can take 2 to 3 years just to get approval for one site. So you have to take all of that into consideration, right? And that could bring attractiveness to the deal. US Cellular having sites already in these areas brings a huge attractiveness to the deal besides the pricing. And that leads me to the next segment, the credit rating increase. T-Mobile has received credit rate increases starting 2022. They've gotten first ever full investment rating increases. They've been upgraded from a BBB negative or minus to a BBB plus. The outlook is stable. They are now going to generate massive cash flow generation. Massive. I've been speaking to several analysts, and the bigger analysts are now starting to realize that T-Mobile is going to generate massive cash flow. Massive. Like I keep saying in the videos, by the 2026 targeted time frame of the guidance where T-Mobile will be with the free cash flow, that is a conservative number. They are going to beat that. You just have to look at the history. T-Mobile always underdelivers, not underdelivers. They underpromise and overdeliver. Always. So the numbers that they presented at the 2021 Analyst Day are conservative. Keep that in mind. Anything T-Mobile puts out, even the guidance, the raise and beat for each fiscal year is conservative. That's how they're able to raise and beat every quarter. It's common sense. So they're going to do better than what they're telling the street. Look at their recent changes. Look at the plan and price increasing. They did 2 of them. They got the Go 5G Plus, the Go 5G Next. Look at all the fees that they increased. None of that was included in the 2021 guidance. Again, it's conservative. They are going to beat those numbers. They are going to beat those numbers drastically, in my opinion. If you look at their recent success, if you look at their growth, they just made recent job cuts. That's bad. I feel sorry for those employees, but those job cuts are going to allow T-Mobile to grow well into 2024, 2025, compete as they need to, shift if they have to, be on their toes just in case Verizon and AT&T get even more competitive in the MNO space. That's what that allowed T-Mobile to do. So there's big cash generation, bigger margins that are on the way. Like I said, and I'll repeat it again, all of the recent plan changes, the price increases, the fees, none of that was factored in at the 2021 guidance. It is a conservative number. The $18+ billion by 2026 is conservative. They are likely going to be at 22, 24 billion, if not more. It's actually, this might be the most conservative guidance that we've ever gotten from T-Mobile. These new plans are working. They're telling you 60% of new customers chose the Go 5G Plus. Maybe we'll get a percentage of the Go 5G Next at Q3 earnings. That's a very new plan in rotation that hasn't been in rotation long enough to put out a number on. So the next segment is Plan A, right? Mike Sievert discussed Plan A rule is working beautifully. 30% of new customers in the quarter came from small market rural areas. So that's a big achievement. But being realistic, I'd have to see the churn on those customers. You know, on those individual customers, that 30%, how many of them are they able to retain in these environments? Like I said, that network can be good in that specific town. But if you go and visit, you know, Aunt Susie 30 miles east, how is the network going to perform there? Right? There's a license to play. There's a license to win. They might have the license to win in that specific area, but if they travel to the next town over that's 45 miles west, they might not have the license to play and the license to win there. That's a longer distance. So you might run into a weaker coverage area in that next town over, or you might run into roaming, which is capped, or you might run into no service at all. Right? So I'd have to see the churn on that 30%. They're not going to give us that, right? They're going to give us an overall churn, which looks good at 0.77%, best in the industry, likely going to increase. But that's something that I would have to see the churn on. I would have to see an individual breakdown, an analysis on what that churn is on that 30%. If I had to take a guess, it's way higher than their overall churn. I would probably say 1.5, 1.7% churn on that 30% customers. And they've been doing that for several quarters now. This is not the first quarter that they've claimed that 30% of new customers are from the rural environment. They call it SMIRA, small market rural areas. This is not the first quarter. They've been claiming several quarters in that they've been getting like 20 to 30% of all new customers coming from rural areas. So I'd have to see the churn on that individual breakdown of the rural areas. And I know for a fact that T-Mobile internally tracks that. They look at that. They look at, okay, in these markets, we aren't growing as fast. Can we compete regionally? And I think that's what T-Mobile is going to do moving forward. They're not going to aggressively compete promotion-wise on a national scale anymore, right? They have the new plans that are included now, the Go 5G Plus, the Go 5G Next. I think now they're going to undertake a regional approach. In the areas where they want to grow, where they want to be disruptive, that's where they compete. And I think a lot of that is going to be small market rural areas. And we've recently seen that on the prepaid side. Some of those small market rural areas now have deals that you cannot get across the national footprint. If you're in a big city, you walk into Metro by T-Mobile, they will not have access to the deals that a Metro by T-Mobile dealer will have access to in the area where T-Mobile wants to grow and take share. So that's a good approach, right? Interesting approach, very good approach. But regardless, right, of that plan A, like I mentioned at the very beginning of the video, if the US Cellular deal is attractive, T-Mobile will buy it. Write it down, remember it, it will happen. And it will accelerate everything that I just discussed, right? 30% of new customers, that's going to increase with US Cellular. They have sites. They have customers already. They have scale. In these areas where T-Mobile doesn't. They have spectrum. Now, I will say there's going to be some hurdles. There's going to be regulatory pushback as to should T-Mobile own that entire asset, the entire entity. And I will say, again, this is a realistic take. I'm going to say no. I don't think the regulatory environment currently is going to allow T-Mobile to own that entire asset. I think it will have to be split, maybe even three ways. It might have to be split between Verizon, AT&T, and T-Mobile, depending on who wants the assets, right? In my opinion, I would even say that T-Mobile just wants the towers. They have spectrum assets to put on air, right? They're still waiting on Auction 108 to clear. So if they can get the towers, I think T-Mobile would be fine with that. As I mentioned earlier in the video, it takes a long time to gain approval for one site, especially in those parts, right? People have to drive to the area. They got to do the zoning. That just takes incredible amounts of time. Where US Cellular, with its infrastructure, could solve that issue. But again, right, being realistic, it has to be attractive and accretive to T-Mobile. And the pricing, I don't think it plays a factor as long as it's attractive to T-Mobile. T-Mobile can buy it. They have the cash on hand. They have the credit ratings. They have the debt market to go to. They have far less debt than its competitors. They have huge cash flow generation by 2026. They will be able to buy this. Don't let anybody else tell you different. Don't think different. They can buy this. They can do an all stock deal. They can do cash. They can buy this asset. If they have to go into, further debt, so be it. But like I said, it has to be attractive. It overall has to be attractive and accretive to the company. It can't just be, is it cheap enough? No, it has to be everything. Where are the towers at? Are they going to bring coverage benefits to us? Can we fill in some density? Can we maybe get some spectrum out of this deal? That's the attractiveness that I'm speaking of. Can we get retail distribution? Right? That's a big one. You can have all the coverage in the world. If you don't have brand presence in these areas, people will think you don't exist there. US Cellular has retail stores in these areas. So like I said, it's a big deal, right? It could be split 3 ways. It could be split 4 ways. The government may want Dish to get some of this too. It could be literally split between T-Mobile, Dish, AT&T, and Verizon. Who knows? At the end of the day, this is a realistic take, but we're all speculating. We're all speculating, right? AT&T might not be interested at all. They're still getting a kickback from the government for FirstNet. They have relatively decent spectrum holdings. They're not doing fixed wireless access or home internet air to the same type of scale, right? So they still have leverage. They still have offloading onto their fiber. They want to get to 30 million plus households by 2025, which is a pretty substantial footprint. So it will be interesting to monitor, right? So far, the company that's been talked about the most, that seems the most interested, that many analysts on the street think is the best fit, is T-Mobile. So we'll continue monitoring the situation. Just wanted to give you guys a longer breakdown of the scenario that could play out. Like I said, just to recap, if the deal is attractive, T-Mobile will buy. Never mind Plan A, they will buy. T-Mobile has received credit rating increases. They will be fine on that front. They have big cash generation coming. The street is finally starting to realize how much cash T-Mobile is really going to generate. Again, Plan A, in the last few quarters, T-Mobile has been claiming 30% of new customers that are coming onto the Un-carrier is from the rural environment. Again, I would have to see the churn on those numbers to see if that's really working. So those are just some of the points that I covered in today's video. Gave you guys a bit of a bigger, more detailed breakdown. So this could work. This could really work for T-Mobile. Could be a pretty big deal if they get it, right? Depending on what the government decides. The government could block it all together, make US Cellular go through a Chapter 11, whatever the case may be. Like I said, it's up in the air. It could be split 4 ways. It could be split between 2, right? It could be just T-Mobile and Verizon. It's just it's all up in the air right now. I don't know. For myself, I don't know how much traction this is going to gain before the end of the year is out, right? I don't know if in October we get a big announcement, oh, TDS is selling, US Cellular, UMS is their stock tag. They're going to sell. They're done. It's over. I don't know if we get that announcement still this year. So that's something to think about as well. But that's just a more detailed breakdown from me, letting you guys know that, if the deal is attractive, T-Mobile will buy. Make sure you guys stay tuned for more. Like, share, subscribe, follow my social media outlets. This is Tyrone with Tech Life, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace.